Assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome back to our analysis of Islamic finance. Today we will be looking at another issue, which is debt financing. But now I would like to look at debt financing from the perspective of the banking company and from the perspective of the consumer. So the discussion of the Islamic debt financing will be to match what is a good debt and what is a bad debt. So let us go and see what is in the menu today. From the banking perspective, we are looking at the character of the debt created by the Islamic banks, the attributes, the character of the Islamic financing related to the asset financing created by the Islamic bank, and number two, from the customer's point of view, whether the debt is good or bad for the customer, right? So we have good debt versus bad debts from the banking perspective and from the customer perspective. So let us just run through the note here. I think these are quite basic to most of you. Debt is the money that one owes the bank when he or she take a loan with interest, right? So, that is very basic definition. If the loan is equal to $1,000 at 10% interest rate per annum over 5 years, then the debts will be the amount of the loan and the amount of the interest payment. And that will be equal to the $100,000 loan plus $50,000 of interest payment, which is 100,000 multiplied by 10% multiplied by 5 years. So we got an interest charges of 50,000. So the total debt, which is the sum of the loan and interest, will be 150,000. So with interest charges, the debt is always higher than the loan, right? So whenever interest is positive, then always the amount of money that we owe the bank will be more than the loan we take from the bank, because the additional payment will be the interest payment that we must pay as part of the debt obligation. It's number one. Now let us look at the Islamic debt. Islamic debt is the money that we owe the Islamic bank arising from a murabaha sale. So in Islamic bank, we don't take a loan. So we do a murabaha sale, which is a sale with deferred payment. So the murabaha is not a sale with spot payment, but because this is a financing arrangement, so meaning that the payment will be made in the future by installment. It can be done by installment or it can be done by a bullet form. It doesn't matter as long as the total debt payment is on installment basis. Now, since the Islamic debt is coming from a sale or murabaha, or meaning that we're talking about al-bay', the debt is quoted in the product disclosure sheet of the Islamic bank for this murabaha sale. The debt is quoted as the selling price or the sale price, stated in the contract. So the debt is the sale price, and the sale price will consist of the cost of the purchase and the profit margin, right? So the profit margin can be calculated using the simple formula. How much facility, how much finances that we acquire from the bank, that is the cost of purchase. How much does it take to purchase the goods from the wholesaler or from the supplier? Okay, so if you are looking at the purchase of property or the purchase of equipment, then how much is the cost of that equipment that the bank acquire from the supplier, plus the profit rate. Oh, I'm sorry, it is cost of purchase multiplied by the profit rate and multiplied by the tenure. And that will be equal to $100,000 multiplied by 10% multiplied by 5 years, and we got the profit margin of 50,000. So the sale price will be equal to 100,000 of the cost of purchase plus the $50,000 comprising of the profit margin. So the sale price or the selling price is equal to 150,000. So in our case for Murabaha sale, the debt will be more than the cost of purchase by virtue of the amount of the profit margin, right? So from the banking perspective, because we are looking at a Murabaha and it is a sale made by the bank to the customer on credit. So we are dealing with debt financing as defined by the sale price or selling price. So in general, Islam has no objection against debt financing, and the Fuqaha allowed debt financing from a sale transaction only, right? So the ulama, the Fuqaha has allowed the use of debt financing from a sale transaction only. And debt financing from loans is haram unless the loans are qardu hasan, unless the loans do not contain any interest charges, unless the loans are interest free. So for example, when the loan or the qard is $10,000 with 0 interest, then the amount of loan is equal to the amount of debt. That is, the money we owe the lending party is 10,000, not anything more, because the loan are qardu hasan where interest is 0. Now, debt financing from sale produces profit that is lawful only when the sale is a true sale. That is, the bank, before selling the goods to the customer on credit, the bank holds total ownership of the asset. And number 2, the bank assumes the asset ownership risk. So that is the main idea when the Fuqaha allowed debt financing. It allowed debt financing based on a sale transaction, and a sale transaction is defined by the fact that the bank as the selling party must be the legal owner of the asset, and that would mean automatically that the bank holds asset ownership risk prior to the disposal of the asset to the customer based on credit terms. So the debt created from the sale is equal to the selling price of the asset, that is cost of asset plus profit margin. So that would be the principle of debt financing. So debt financing and the taking of profit based on future obligation, based on time value of money, is allowed by the Fuqaha, and the caveat being that this must be a sale transaction, that the profit gained from the time value of money cannot be acquired from a loan transaction. And because it is a sale transaction, it implies that there are some responsibility to the bank, where the bank must be the legal owner of the asset prior to the sale on credit, which at the same time assume that the bank holds ownership risk of the asset while they are in the banking book. Okay guys, so these are some of the preliminary ideas about debt financing. Later on we can look into what are the issues that I'm trying to bring up in this particular discussion. Okay guys, thank you very much for your time. I'll see you again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah.